The first special legislative session ended with no laws passed, and a second one has already begun. Governor Greg Abbott is calling on lawmakers to pass a property tax relief bill by driving down school district tax rates. The House passed a bill to do that during the first special session. But Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick instead pushed a plan to increase the amount of a home's value that cannot be taxed. And despite Patrick's last-ditch effort to put money toward what the House wants in a revised bill, the two chambers could not come together on an agreement.
Lieutenant Governor Patrick did move some direction, some distance in the direction of the House bill, but not enough to attract the House back.
Now, Governor Abbott has called lawmakers to return to the Capitol again to get his campaign promise passed.
But when it comes down to who really gets to pull the levers on this, I think leadership has failed. And they've bragged about it for a year and a half, and they didn't deliver it, and now we're stuck here in the middle of the summer.
Speaker Dave Phelan created a House committee to study lasting property tax relief. One member says talks are happening with senators to get a bill passed.
We're having a conversation about how we can come together and come up with a solution. There seems to be a willingness for that to occur.
Until lawmakers pass a plan, home and business owners are left wondering when they'll see the money Governor Abbott promised them.
This is a very unusual situation where an all-Republican leadership team seems unable to resolve the major issues on the table, and the public is watching with a little bit of amazement and I think growing concern.
It remains to be seen how the House and Senate will work out their differences in a second special session. But there is an August deadline to get an amendment on the November ballot, so lawmakers are on the clock. For Capitol Tonight, I'm Charlotte Scott.
Let's bring in one of the House members now, Democratic Representative Chris Turner of Arlington. Representative Turner, good to see you. Thanks for being on the program.
Good to be with you, Karina. Thanks for having me.
So what changes in the next special? I mean, how does this impasse over property tax relief end?
Well, it's a great question. I hope it will end, and I hope that we will pass meaningful property tax relief for Texans, because I know, talking with my constituents, homeowners are feeling the weight of the property tax burden in Texas, because Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the country, and we do need to bring those taxes down.
Yeah.
And so what we really need is for the Republican leadership to get on the same page, for the governor to get involved and work something out, so we can pass some property tax relief onto our constituents right now this year.
Are you aware of any strategy for the House that you can share with us? I mean, is it another come in, pass the bill quickly, and head out?
Karina, I haven't heard. If I knew, I would certainly be happy to tell you, but I haven't heard what the plan is, and there may not be a plan fully formulated yet. I think that clearly the House took one approach, the Senate took a different approach, and so the House and Senate have got to agree on something in order for something to get to the governor. But what I do know is the House has passed, 3 different property tax bills between the special session and the regular session, and frankly, the second version in the regular session, they're passed in early May, was a concession to the Senate by including a substantial homestead exemption of $100,000, but the Senate said no to that. So I think we've got to get people talking and try to work something out, because clearly this is important and people need to pass something so we can pass some relief on to our constituents.
Well, and what do you think would be the best version? I mean, what kind of compromises is the House willing to make? I know that, this is a Republican leadership and we're looking a lot to them, but this is kind of also a House versus Senate at this point, with overwhelming support in the House for one version and overwhelming support in the Senate for another.
Sure. Well, and I might admittedly be a bit of an outlier on that, because, as you may recall, I was voted against the initial House bill back in March or April, because I simply disagreed with the inclusion of appraisal caps. And I did support the version that included the homestead exemption, because I do think the homestead exemption will provide meaningful relief to my constituents and to a lot of other Texans. So if it were up to me, I would write a bill that passed or that included some combination of homestead exemption and rate compression. But there are a lot of issues, frankly, that aren't being addressed that are very much related to this that we also need to keep in mind. And that includes how we adequately fund our public schools, because property taxes have a lot to do with public education funding in Texas. And we also need to talk about the people in Texas who work hard every day to support their families who don't own property.
Yeah.
They rent. And how are we going to deliver some relief to them?
All questions that have been brought up throughout the course of these past several months. We'll see how many more months, maybe another 30 days, and what you guys can do to get it done. Representative Chris Turner, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more refreshing stories about your community, click the subscribe button over here. You can also download our Spectrum News app and tune in to Channel 55 on Dish and DirecTV to get live news coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.